Afternoon and welcome everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 97 ESPN Radio. Good Monday to each and every one of you. Appreciate you joining us. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do, go back, get caught up at your leisure, of course, because we'll post it both to the website and to Apple Podcasts. Other places you find, or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts as well. You can email us if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameronshow. Hello, YouTubers. Appreciate you joining the program. Florida State with the 31-28 upset of North Carolina. Funny, we did Tallahassee Game Day on Saturday, Tom, and it was on War Chant TV there on YouTube. And, you know, something that came up in the first hour, I was slightly irritated that the coverage, and I understand it. I mean, it's certainly understandable, but it's frustrating when you consider that the impetus for the coverage, North Carolina, in what they were looking at going into this game against Florida State, was that they were warning the team and the players and the coaches not to look ahead to the big NC State game. Don't get caught looking ahead because you got an easy win against Florida State. Understand that you got to take care of business to make sure that's a business trip to Tallahassee. And, you know, even though you're double-digit favorites to cruise past the Knowles, you know, if you're not careful, that program could upset you. And I thought, son of a bitch. I mean, it hurts to be double-digit underdogs on a regular basis, but it's especially a slap in the face when a program that's won all three times against you in their illustrious history, 3-15 now, 3-16-1, is overlooking you as if you're Wake, as if you're just an also-ran of the conference. And yet I understood logically that that's where we were, that we were in a position where programs, far lesser programs that we typically view as, not deserving of being on the same field as us, and certainly ones that don't have the same cachet or championship pedigree as us, like North Carolina. That's usually reserved for our blasé attitude, but that's where we were, right? And I hoped against hope even, thinking certainly it wouldn't be the case, that maybe there would be, as we joked about during that pregame show, enough magic in the moonlight for Florida State to return to form, to make it a glorious Saturday night at Doak, like I remember in my youth, or back as a student, or as a fan in the 80s, all through the 90s, and et cetera. And so it was that we did get that. We ended up getting that. And we got that because this is a team that is beginning to grow. And we saw signs of it, and you never know. You certainly hope that it's something you can hang your hat on, but you saw signs of it going all the way back late in the game against Miami, where they were still fighting, and the game had been over for the better part of three quarters, but there they were fighting to keep Miami out of the end zone late in that game and doing everything in their power to try to make plays, even though the game was already in hand and you were on the wrong end of an embarrassing beating. And then you saw it against Notre Dame, the late stop in the fourth quarter of that game, after you had every reason to be down in the dumps, having given up a gazillion yards rushing on a simple counter tray most of the night. And yet that fight was still there. They still fought. And we talked about a buy-in factor. We talked about guys being in position to make plays. And I jumped up and down. Some would say thou protest too much. That, look, man, there is evidence here this team is well coached. They're in position. It's not scheme, guys. It's individual effort. It's getting whooped. It's guys just not making plays when they're in a position to make plays. But the effort is there. The scheme is there. They got to begin to believe. They got to find some confidence. They got to continue to work. And I just didn't know how beleaguered, how downtrodden they'd be after giving up all of those yards to Notre Dame, especially given that North Carolina's got two real good backs, one exceptional back, a mobile quarterback who's certainly well above average, and enough playmakers at wide receiver, in particular one receiver, that you thought this is a bad matchup. It's a similar matchup in terms of a veteran, big offensive line going against an underperforming defensive line, poor linebackers, etc. You thought, man, the script is there for them to really have a hard time in this game. And yet, a couple things were obvious. They came to play from the get-go. And They swore up and down from day one, including in the opening press conference, that they would be, and you would see it, their identity, their effort, their buy-in, their commitment to one another and to the program would be seen in special teams, and that would bear the fruit early on. That at the very least you'd see special teams turn around quickly. That's the one promise Mike Norvell made, right? I mean, he didn't talk about moving the ball up and down the field and scoring a gazillion points and guaranteeing 9-10 wins or anything like that. He talked about you'd know that things are different around here because of special teams. Well, they have been. I mean, if you think about special teams from the get-go, right off the bat against Georgia Tech, you saw it. And in this game, it kind of lit the candle, right? You get the block punt, and then you go down and score, and it's on. The momentum is there, and the buy-in is there, and the effort is there, and the energy is there, and you give yourself a chance because you're playing with passion. You're playing with heart. You're playing fast. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but the buy-in to special teams, the buy-in to continue to play hard, the buy-in at the end of the Notre Dame game, and then obviously you see it again at the start of this game, you know they're on the same page. And that to me is exciting. They still got personnel issues. They still got problems that it's going to rear its ugly head. You're going to see it in certain plays, certain halves. You're going to see it in certain matchups. But the buy-in is there, and that is absolutely huge.
Yeah, the thing to me that stands out about the first half is you get off the field. The defense gets off the field. I mean, how many times do you see Florida State's opponent in the last 2 or 3 seasons before you can even sit down and catch your breath? They're up 7-0 or 14-0, and there's an overwhelming thing going on where, okay, maybe we play them pretty good end of the first quarter into the second quarter, but 17-0 already happened. It's too late, guys. Mm-hmm. It's too late to get it together. But to me, it was the defense getting us off the field early. Obviously, you cash in one play later with Jordan Travis and his eyes, his vision, his athleticism. You've got a double pull with the right guard and the right tackle on that touchdown run. And then you've got the left guard and the center kind of swinging out, windmilling to the right. But he has to wait for the right moment for the seas to part, and then he has to have the burst to do something about it and go make a play and be athletic. And that's when you're up 7-0. The defense gets off the field again, and then you get a 3-and-out. And I'm just going to myself, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
And it was effort. It was consistent effort, and it was effort into the second half. North Carolina was going to score, and not just because they're talented on offense, but also because of the way the first half played out. You got the block punt, one play drive. You got a pick six. You got another touchdown drive that occurs in the final minute.
Durden gets kicked out of the game. You're thin already on the defensive line.
They had the ball for 19 and change in the first half.
Yeah.
At the end of the third quarter, they got the ball for 25, 26 minutes. I mean, or 29 minutes, excuse me. It's absurd, the time of possession count. So the fact that they could battle back, make as many plays as they did, still create havoc in the trenches in the second half of this game, it's because of effort. I mean, that's all effort. When you're on the field for that many plays and you still have something to pull back and grab in the big moments of the game, I know that there's a lot of razzle-dazzle plays on offense and special teams that we're going to look at. The first thing I'm going to think about for this game, looking back after the season's over, the defensive line performance. They came to life and they consistently made plays.
Yeah, they did. And we'll talk to Ira Schoffel next hour, warchant.com. We're wont to do that on Monday. All guests appear via the Phone Hero hotline. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway and 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Yeah, effort was there, but also you saw the return in general of Marvin Wilson. You saw a guy that played like, not only with the energy, but the results. Played like the first-round pick we thought he was going to be. Played like the guy we thought he'd be at the start of the season. Played like the guy that everybody anticipated him being. Corey Durden looks like he's finally rounding into form. It's an unfortunate situation where, yes, he ducks his head. And, listen, you guys know that rarely do I think something is targeting. I mean, I'm really... I hate the rule because I know how football is played and I know how fast things happen and angles get changed and how difficult it can be. But in that case, it was a cut and dry infraction. Thankfully, it happened in the first half. He is available to us to start the game against Louisville this weekend right off the bat because it happened in the first half. We're in good shape. But in that moment, you're already without Lovett. You're without True Thompson. Now you're going to be without Durden. And you're thinking, buckle up. Hold on. They don't have enough guys. They don't have enough guys. At some point, they're going to get absolutely worn out. North Carolina is going to score, and when that happens, momentum shifts, and but you just continue to see the effort, even from some guys that you didn't expect to see. Dennis Briggs, welcome back. good to see you out back in.
Had to have.
It's a savior. You're absolutely right. His contribution was very meaningful. But you got plays from Kane Doe, nod the cap. Janarius Robinson, good to see you. Nice of you to show up this year. Really, really an effort that everybody can be proud of. And I'll say this, we'll never know. And North Carolina was going to score. We know that because the big plays are there for them, especially when you can take advantage of our linebackers in the passing game. But I got to tell you, and they've got to find a way to get this. Hopefully, you and I were talking on the phone earlier today with the last vestiges of loser, the last vestiges of being broken. We hope we saw it on the field on Saturday night because the play Dante Lucas makes absolutely kills you. You're going to score. You get the big play right off the bat in the run game. You get all the way down to the 2-yard line. You're going to score and make it 38-7. And if you make it 38-7, good night now. We're done playing. Carolina, I don't think plays with the same vigor. I think they're deflated to the point where we go through the motions and get back on the bus and head back to Chapel Hill. 38-7, you begin to do the math. And you begin to, even as a player, understand there aren't going to be enough possessions. Florida State's going to run the ball with Jordan Travis and LaDamian Webb. They're going to run the ball, and we're not going to see the ball. They're going to be able to convert a few first downs with that athleticism that make you miss, and we're not going to have enough possessions to get back in this football game at 38-7. Instead, you get the dumbass personal foul penalty, which is exactly what that is. That is dumbassery. That's immaturity. It's the kind of thing that costs you games. It's the kind of thing bad teams do. It's the kind of things that teams around here have done lately. And that backs you up and you miss a chip shot field goal, and all of a sudden there's an infusion of life for North Carolina because they're in the game where they should have given up points. They don't. They begin to believe, and when they go down and score, you realize we're probably going to have a game. We're probably going to have a game. And, for Florida State, that's exactly what happened. At the end of the day, the fight was there. Enough big plays are made. And you hold on for dear life, and it's a good thing you dominate that first half the way that you did because you needed every single point in order to hold on.
Yeah, you needed that last drive, which was key.
Huge.
I mean, one of those plays is schemed up, and that's the throw to Warren Thompson on the sidelines where he doesn't give away when the ball's going to arrive. That's a very veteran play to make in that moment.
Tom, I fell off the couch. I was in awe. I've never in my life expected that to happen. That was a beautiful thing.
But that drive is all Jordan Travis. You don't have any timeouts.
No.
He gets out of bounds and scrambles to get you near midfield. Then he executes the throw. Then it's the scramble drill to the back of the end zone. That is surgical. That's what a playmaker does, and that's who Jordan Travis is. Jordan Travis is a playmaker. Is he to the level of the 2013 Knowles? No. But he elevates us. He instantly elevates the expectations. He elevates the way the guys play around him. You can see it. It's infectious. Listen to the 19,000 in attendance on Saturday.
Yeah.
That place sounded loud as hell.
My son and my father sat together for this game. They were there, and I'm so happy for them because, so for my son to sit with his granddad and to enjoy that moment was really cool. Yeah, man, they were impassioned, and the players gave them something to embrace and to remember. I hope it's something that we look back on 2 and 3 years from now, where we say, "Remember where we were? Remember how dire things looked, how difficult it was to muster up any sort of enthusiasm to talk about, watch, or embrace Florida State football, and then little signs began to appear, and then the North Carolina game happened." And we'll look at that. It'll be the catalyst. We'll say that was the game. That was the moment it became Norvell's team. That was the moment that they were completely bought in, began to believe. That was the moment that they found an identity. That was the moment where they were able to go on and put something together of a season that gave you hope and maybe salvaged a recruiting class, etc. Because now, and again, I'll say this throughout the day, but I was talking to my dad after the game. Look, if you had told me before the North Carolina game to do W's and L's with Louisville and Pitt and NC State and Clemson and Virginia and Duke, I'm not going to tell you that I would have had us losing all of those games, but I certainly would have said, yeah, you'd be lucky to win 3 or 4 at best, maybe if you're lucky. I mean, you're going to lose to Clemson. So we kind of now I'm not willing to concede anything now, except the Clemson game. I'm not really willing to concede anything. They can beat Pitt. They can beat Louisville this weekend. Wouldn't be shocked at all. I half expect them to do it. Beat Pitt here? Sure, why not? They should beat Pitt here. NC State? Yeah, I'm in. Yeah, absolutely. Virginia and Duke, of course. Like, you now can see a path to a decent season.
You can. And if I was to tell you also before the game started that Florida State would not score a single point in the second half against North Carolina, and yet they'd win, you would check me. You would check me into a facility. You'd check me for marks of drug use and abuse. You'd say, what the hell's wrong with you? But that's exactly what happened. And it's funny how in the first game, you give up 16 points to Georgia Tech, and yet you don't feel great about the defense. Because when you watch the game, you see a lot of troubling signs.
Yeah, and here you give up 28, and you feel better about the defense.
Yeah, you give up 550 yards. It's like 6 yards of play, and you just applaud their fight. They had to stay in it. We hardly had the ball through the first three quarters.
Yeah, and the thing is, football's a funny game. You see it all the time. You saw it yesterday in the NFL. It's 10-0 Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is carving up the Bucs defense, all these rub routes, all these man beaters, all these crossing routes at the beginning of the game, and you're thinking, boy, this is a problem. This is not a great matchup for Tampa Bay because Todd Bowles wants to be in man and doesn't want to drop. And yet there's an adjustment. You get a pick six. Next thing you know, it's an avalanche. Bucs go on to score 38 straight points, and they beat that ass, and the whole thing flips on its head. And for me, when I'm watching this game and it's 31-7, and you go right down on the first possession of the second half, I'm thinking they're going to make it 38-7. And if they make this 38-7, look out, we might blow North Carolina out in a way that the nation talks about. And we'll never know. But I'm telling you, I have a pretty good sense if they go up 38-7, this thing ends up 40-something to 21, or maybe even 50-something to 21.
Yeah, but you take all the clippings you can get, and at halftime, I flipped over to Alabama, Georgia at the halftime of our game, and Nestler says, within 5 seconds of changing the channel, something's going on in Tallahassee tonight. All of those kinds of things, those conversations, the bottom lines.
Good for you.
Yeah, well, when you can't go into recruits' homes and it's a dead period through the end of this calendar year, these are all massive developments. You've got to give – we talked about it last week. The only way you can truly communicate to kids right now is through the television on the field for the 60 minutes. What a message and what a communication this is to kids that might want to come play here.
Should note, by the way, as an aside – something that we all look forward to and have every reason to celebrate on an annual basis these days. Florida State's first full week of practice starts today in basketball. I know we're going to celebrate Saturday night's football victory, but the Noles have begun, and let's just cross our fingers that we're able to, at some point, see a full house at the TLC Double C and the energy that we all know to be true there, and the turnaround of the basketball program that's been well documented on this show.
The funny thing is when McDonough, and he makes the montage because McDonough will always give you your money's worth on a call.
He does a good job.
He's great. Mm-hmm. And you have the final drop, and they cut to the stands, and it's bedlam in the stands. The first thing I thought of is, man, that reminds me of the Louisville FSU game at the TLC Double C this year. Yeah. Like the moments, people going nuts in the stands is usually reserved for FSU basketball these days, but not on Saturday night.
No.
That group got us charged up, and good for the defense, good for Coach Fuller. They should be the first ones in line when you congratulate the team this week because they've been maligned. They stepped up. He stepped up. Take a victory lap.
Yeah, and if you raise the floor and get some better players in here at linebacker, and you get a little bit more consistency from the rest of this defense. There's plenty to point to that they can still build on and grow and get better. I mean, they got a long ways to go.
Oh, definitely.
They got a long way to go.
One half of the field at corner. We need to.
That's a toughie, right?
The target to catch yardage production ratio in one half of the field is pretty horrible.
Well, there's a particular player that had a really rough night that I have to reserve my thoughts and feelings on that one.
But even though it's going to be in the high 80s this week, the fresh air in town, this is a good week. You got to go and validate it on Saturday. But, I mean, geez, just exhale this week.
I'm eager now. I mean, I spend most of my week trying to figure out a way to get excited about Florida State football beyond just the, my loyalty to the program. This is now I'm excited to see what are we? Do we back this up? Do we go on the road? I understand that the atmosphere is not the same as it would be with a packed house, but do you go on the road now, play with that same energy for a noon kickoff? Do you have that same what for? Do you have that confidence, that buy-in that we've continued to see? I think the buy-in will be there no matter what. They've just got a huge shot in the arm. The celebration in the locker room afterwards, for those of you that haven't seen it, you can go to FSU Football's feed on Twitter. You can go to Seminoles.com. You can go a lot of different places and find that video. It's awesome because not only does strength and conditioning coach Storm hand the hammer over to Coach Norvell to break the rock, which whatever, it's symbolism, I got you. But man, those kids are so excited for him to do so, and they celebrate together. That's important.
Yeah, after the Jacksonville State game, there was a representative sample around it, but Jordan Travis hitting it. Yeah, there's like 6 or 7 dudes that are fired up. Yeah. That whole locker room's going
they were going
crazy.
nuts.
Yeah,
they were going nuts. A reason to believe, baby. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
y'all know me, still the same OG, but I've been low key.
If you're a Braves fan, take a moment and maybe flip to some music or something and come back. But it happens all the time. We usually recognize it as fans when it's our own team. And sometimes when you're watching a game between two teams that you're fairly indifferent about, you can see it. And as a neutral fan say, ooh, you know, that feels like that was important. That kind of feels like that might cost them the game. That feels like something we're going to be talking about when this one's over. And I said it to my dad last night. You get the Austin Riley single, and you retake a lead after the Dodgers had come back to tie it at 2. You're up 3-2. Second and third, nobody out. All right, here we go. Braves are feeling it. Going to break it on open, Tommy. What are they doing? For a moment, you hear it in John Smoltz's voice. It's the only time where the Brave in him came out. Because they completely botch it. You get the great play from Justin Turner. They get the out at the plate, the spin, the turnaround, obviously over the third. You get that out. They get nothing out of it. And it felt like a game changer. It felt like a game saver for the Dodgers. And Smoltz goes, nothing they could have done could have been worse for the Braves than what just happened right there. And it was funny just to hear it in his voice, a tinge of, are you effing kidding me? Came out for the first time because he's great at what he does.
Yeah, I mean, worst case, you got runners on the corners or second and third with one out.
Something.
But you're hung up between second and third.
The whole thing is unreal when you watch it play out, and the Braves dodge a bullet, and the next thing you know, so that's a 5-2, 5-2, 5-6 double play is how that's scored, by the way.
I've said this before, and I'm not trying to be trite or sarcastic or anything. Like, Braves they're the rivals of mine, so I don't like them. But that team is really likable. I hate it for that group because that's killer, man.
Well, and golly, if you're Dansby Swanson, don't you just feel like an ass? I mean, that is Little League stuff. You have to hold there. It's right in front of you. Yeah. It's right there. What are you doing? Oh, buddy. That's a toughie. That's a toughie. And they don't score anymore in that inning. And obviously the game gets tied up. Then you get the home run in the seventh. And, they lose.
They got one base runner after that.
Yeah, they lose the series after being up 3-1. And it's all too familiar for Atlanta fans to feel the bitter sting of disappointment. And in brutal fashion. I guess it kind of doesn't do much to offset that pain when I say, hey, the Falcons won.
Going away.
I kind of thought they might. That's a bad defense in Minnesota. Boy.
Kirk Cousins has his
nice 3 interceptions, Kirk.
Oh, buddy.
Doing what he does.
First play of the game.
Yeah, he does what he does. He keeps both teams in the game on a regular basis. That's who that guy is. That's the reason that you kind of just one Sunday you're going, all right. Next Sunday you go, okay, can we get somebody else in here?
Looks like Julio's hamstring is finally healthy too.
Yeah, well, they got and Ridley looked healthier too. He scored.
He's made for the Dirk Cutter offense.
Yeah, but it does very little, I think, to pour salve on the wounds of Braves fans to know that the Falcons won. But I don't know. It was fun for us to be able to bring it to you. They're a good team. They'll be good again next year, and maybe next year is the year.
Our minds go immediately to our pal Corey, and thankfully Florida State closed the deal, because if it was 35-31 North Carolina, you pair that with Georgia, Alabama, you pair that with the Braves. I mean, that would have been a weekend that lives in infamy.
Well, and listen, the Rays gave everybody reason to wring their hands as well after blowing a 3-0 lead to have it come back to a Game 7. But fortunately, they get out to the lead early, and they get out 4-0, and they end up doing what they've done all year long, and that is, A, show resiliency, and B, that bullpen is something special, and it was again. And Charlie Morton, man, is just on the table guy. It is on the table for that guy. When you look at the amount of big games he's had to pitch in and the performances in those games, he's the antithesis of the guy we saw in Pittsburgh for all those years because, of course, he is.
Yeah, of the Final Four, you had one outlier, and Houston almost did it. They almost became the second team to follow the 04 Red Sox to come back from 3-0 down. But now the World Series is representative of the 60 games plus the postseason. Who's the best? The two teams that are playing for this year's World Series.
By far, and now, you go into this, the Dodgers are the favorite. Of course they are. But you certainly would not count out the Rays in this series, and it begins on Tuesday night. So go Rays. Would have been nice to have Rays Braves. That would have been fun for the region, but as it stands now down in Tampa, times are good because the Lightning win the Stanley Cup. The Bucks, given their performance yesterday, just drubbing the Packers and really making that look like a joke of a game, and the Rays go to the World Series. There are a lot of people believing it's the year of Tampa Bay.
Well, it's the battle for Titletown because the Lakers win the NBA, and that's L.A.
Now the Dodgers.
Tampa wins the Cup, and here you go. It's Tampa or L.A. to go up 2-1 in the race for Titletown 2020. Out of curiosity, did you think we were dead and buried at 10-0 when the offense was looking like garbage?
I didn't think we were dead and buried. It did look like it might be a long day at the office, but I thought you had to sustain the drive. I thought you were going to have to do something, and then when we didn't, I started getting concerned just time of possession. It was 12 minutes to 3 minutes at one point in that game, and you're thinking, well, this is problematic because, A, you just lost Vita Vea last week, so you're already a little thinner on that defensive line. If they're going to possess the ball forever and be able to get first down after first down with these simple crossing routes, rub routes, you're going to have a real problem. But you get the pick six, and, that pick six turns the momentum around quickly. They seem to have figured something out just before that drive. And they began to really, to me, more than anything else, get pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And you saw him having to kind of stall a little bit, pause, and take an extra second to think.
Well, we see that garbage deep out all the time in Tampa in practice, I'm sure, because it's a staple of the Bruce offense. And there's something about that building, Ray J and pick sixes, but that route we're familiar with. And also, if you're pressuring, which we were often, but on that play specifically, you can squat on the shorter route because you're supposed to get home.
Got to get home, yeah. And he's playing outside leverage that whole way, and he understands there's only so much room there. I mean, you can jump it the second he gets close to the sideline. I couldn't believe – I bet he couldn't believe he threw it. Where are you going with that? That's going to be into the third row. That can't be there. But, it just shows you can be one of the best 5 or 6 quarterbacks of all time. And all these guys, when pressured, that's the whole thing in that league, in football in general. I don't care how good a quarterback you are. If you're under pressure and you have to throw quicker than you want to, sooner than you want to, under duress, you can be, again, as smart, as accurate. You can have as good an arm as there is in the league. It doesn't really matter.
Well, bringing it back home, that was the night and day difference. I understand that North Carolina puts 550 yards of offense out there, but we had 1 tackle for loss against Notre Dame. Opportunity for maybe 3 or 4 plays that we missed in the backfield.
Didn't make those plays.
We had 8 and 4 sacks on Saturday. 8 tackles for loss. Hal often had to flush left, flush right, and he did a couple of times, created plays by extending the play and tip your cap to him, but he was affected up here mentally.
There's a stretch, Tom, of I think about middle of the second quarter to first 7 minutes or so of the third quarter where Howell's body language is awful. It's awful. He's frustrated, I think, some with the play calling, but B, he's frustrated by Florida State's presence, the pressure. You can see it, and it, not only did it affect him, it affected his body language. I thought he exuded a guy who was beaten at times. Now, to his credit, he turned it around. They began to exploit the middle of the field, and that's open for business all day long. We've got to figure out something there, but you can only do so much when your linebackers are who our linebackers are. But, I mean, at that point, he begins to make plays, and all of a sudden you see him kind of puff up a little bit. But it just shows you that frustration, nobody's immune, man. If you're getting pressure and guys aren't running wide open and the timing is disrupted, it's the stuff you see from quarterbacks.
I was just unbelievably stunned. They come out running the ball, and you think that that's to establish something to get the linebacker eye level in the backfield, and then you're just going to go between the seams and abuse us all day. And it never really materialized. Only after it was 31-7 did you see between the seams, out of necessity, start to be used by Longo and the North Carolina attack. That would have been priority 1 for me because those linebackers are, whether it's the freshmen or the veterans, you can always put them in conflict in a way that you're going to see wide open spaces.
Yeah.
And they didn't take advantage of it. We outcoached the hell out of them on Saturday.
Yeah, we have a mild disagreement on that. I would have come into the game with the game plan that North Carolina had because I would have just got done watching the Notre Dame tape and I would have thought, okay, our offensive line's not quite Notre Dame's, but it's close to it, and we've got 2 really effective backs. Let's see if they've learned anything at Florida State. Now, admittedly, probably about the third drive when I see that, okay, Those defensive linemen are playing with real effort this week. They're making plays. They're winning their one-on-one battles. We've got real problems here. All right, well, let's attack another area of weakness that's been exposed on film that I've had a chance to look at as well, which is the seams. It's certainly taking advantage of Florida State's linebackers. And once you would have done that earlier in the game, you would have thought, okay, there we go. Eureka, we've got it. And you might have scored a few more times before we get to a situation where it's 31-7. You're absolutely, so we kind of agree and disagree on that. Early on, I thought if I'm North Carolina, I'd do exactly what they did, even though it wasn't working, just because it was exploited so much by Notre Dame.
Well, it just seemed like, coming off of that Notre Dame game, that that they're going to flood the line of scrimmage. They're going to bring a lot of pressures because they have to stop something.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be, so there's a counterpunch to work off of. But yeah, you're late in the first half. It's like 23-24-9 run to pass.
Yeah,
that's just a crazy ratio.
That's a crazy ratio.
And I get that the sacks or quarterback runs because of pressure might skew the numbers just a little bit because college doesn't keep the stats the way the pros do. But that ratio is insane, especially when you see early on that you're not going to get those 50-yarders like they got, like Notre Dame got the week before.
Well, one thing to note, I've been clamoring for it, and I think a lot of our fans have too. My thought is always that it's emasculating to get run on the way that we've been getting run on, and I would much rather just flood it and play man on the outside and give my 5-star corners, albeit they don't always play that way, an opportunity to cover in man, get handsy, get aggressive. Listen, I'm going to put a lot of pressure on you, put a lot of responsibility on you to stay in coverage because I'm going to damn sure take away the run. I'm going to stack the box, and we're going to make plays against this run game, and then they're going to throw the ball, and you're going to be in isolation. You got to make plays. And we were in more man than we're typically in. So, yep, bravo. Good job.
Yeah, one half of the field's going to have to get cleaned up. The other, Asante, if he's healthy and he's out there, you feel pretty good about it. It's just you need a little bit of luck to push you over the top. This is a great result because you get the result, so they get the feeling of winning.
And you can show them.
But they didn't finish.
No.
You need to get a little bit lucky along the way to finish.
Some drops.
So now you teach them how to finish. Plus, they feel good and they want to get coached up. Man, it's hard to play for him. You heard him say it from the get-go that it's going to be difficult. And you have teens of guys, right? It's 13, 15 guys that have been run off between last December and where we are right now. Because it's hard to play for Mike Norvell. But you've got to get a result, so they want to play for him and practice for him and prepare. This is huge. You cannot overstate how big this win is.
All the speeches are about 60 minutes together. I mean, they're all about, hey, we're in this together, 60 minutes together, let's go. And, the buy-in is there. You do want a result so that you can continue to buy in and grow from that. I think if you're a player, if you found it dubious or you didn't like the way business was handled or you've been frustrated by kids that were run off or coaches, whatever it might be. Your frustration is with losing, typically. Whatever it might be, you need that result to know then, as they say, proof of concept. You need to know that what we're doing is going to pay dividends, that ultimately you're going to win football games. I understand that you can believe in the overriding philosophy. You can believe in the way they go about teaching it, but you have to get a result. Usually sooner rather than later. Eventually, apathy sets in when you're losing every week, no matter how hard you prepare, no matter how locked in and focused you are during the week. If you lose the games, it gets harder and harder to do it. It's human nature.
And they're screaming at you on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It's harder to listen to that screaming if you keep losing and you're 1-5, 1-6, or whatever it would have been.
And now there's real life. Now there's the thought, okay, now not only did we win, and listen, I understand. I got a million emails on this, and I've heard everybody and their brother say it. Well, North Carolina wasn't the 5th best team in the country. Well, somebody had to be ranked number 5. I don't know that I can find 5 great teams in the country right now. First of all, we got to stop ranking these SEC teams that lose every week. Auburn's sorry ass. I can go on and on about them. But, we can keep doing this every week. We see another team where you go, Well, somebody has to be at number 5, and they were at number 5, and we beat them, and we're double-digit underdogs. And so, you know what? It counts. It's always going to count. Get excited about it. Those kids are damn sure excited about it. So let's see if that leads to even further buy-in and more energy and a belief that you can make plays each week and win football games.
When I was young and full of
I laugh at myself. I can't find it, Tom. We'll have to do it next hour. I've got everything over here. I got keys to the game. I've got everything we could possibly need.
I've got the copy memorized in case.
I always want to. I got it. Here it is. I always want to get it exactly right, though. I don't trust myself to get it exactly right. Time now for the Smart Choice of the Weekend, brought to you by University Lending Group. University Lending Group, buying a new home. Make the smart choice and head to ratecheckus.com. In 24 hours or less, you'll have peace of mind knowing that you're getting the lowest rates in Tallahassee. Ratecheckus.com. Smart Choice of the Weekend?
I got one for you.
Okay, I'm going to let you go first.
It is the Coach Fuller pre-snap checkout of the corner blitz, Asante Samuel, late in the game. How many times, and you saw it earlier in the FSU North Carolina tilt, where the cadence allows us to tip our hand, and Sam Howell throws a dime right past Akeem Dent for a touchdown because he knew where the pressure was coming from and he had singles in the perimeter. Later in the game, Asante Samuel shows that he's coming on a corner blitz, and Coach Fuller runs all the way down the sideline to 26, tells him don't do it, tells Lars Woodby instead to blitz from the slot. Florida State ends up getting a big play in the backfield because the blocking was not lined up for the check out of the pressure we showed before the snap. Heads up coaching move by Coach Fuller. That is a smart play.
Coach Papuchis with the punt block saw something on the film and believed they could get a punt block. They go with an overload. It ends up working out. It happens early, obviously, in this game. Sets the tone, the momentum. This is a guy right now that is doing good work every week. Florida State's close to blocking a punt every week. And obviously we've seen what they've done with field goals in terms of blocking and all that other stuff. This is a unit that, along with the offensive line, would be considered the most improved on the football team. He gets a lot of credit there. You heard Coach Norvell after the game saying, quote, "We knew we were going to be aggressive on our punt pressure unit. I thought Coach JP," he's talking about John Papuchis, "put together a great plan, and our kids believed in it. We knew that there was going to be an opportunity in this game within that unit." Now, he's talking about that film review. Again, they saw something there with North Carolina and basically called it. Basically said, we got a punt block here, and it happened, it worked, and it started out the momentum change and shift and belief and everything else that happens in that first half.
Yeah, it's typically the case. The quote from the head coach or the special teams coach, it's all the same. It's about preparation and review and seeing the numbers on one side of the formation. I recall when Alabama blocked a field goal of ours in the season opening game years ago. Same thing. Coach Saban said we saw something
early on.
We thought we could exploit. And for Coach Papuchis, too, how about the defensive ends this game? That's his position group. They played a whale of a game, too. Really good day for him in the coaches' meetings.
Man, walk in without your shirt on, man. Because you can today if you feel like it.
You've got your guy Kando, who could also be a candidate for the smart choice of the weekend, saying on the sideline during the game, listen, I'm not going to get home in time. If I read that they're going to flare out, I'm just going to break what I'm supposed to do and cut off the pass. And that's exactly what he did for the pick six.
Yeah, he sets it up, and I was stunned that Howell threw it anyhow. That's just somebody who hasn't seen Florida State's ends do that on film and doesn't think that they will. And then before he knows it, and you'd like to have that one back, but it's a walk-in. And when you win a game by 3 points, obviously you need everything that you can get to go right. And when you've got a play diagnosed and when you got an opportunity to make a play, you got to make it. What would have happened had he just batted that down? It's all the little things that add up to 3-point wins. It's all of these moments where you realize, okay, everybody's got to have a hand in this. Now, again, we got to get the kicking game cleaned up because you can't miss chip shot field goals. If you are making those kicks, this game is over and put to bed already. But he missed both, and that's hurtful.
We're thrilled to get off the field the first time in this game because, you figure the way
you never do.
Yeah, it's 14-0 before you think twice. But Asante has a chance for a pick six on that first drive. He decides to go with the left-hand spot instead of standing in front. He read it the whole way, standing in front of the pass in the lane and picking it and taking it to the house. That's the difference is nice job getting off the field versus you flipped the whole game.
Howell, by the way, looked shaky in the first half. Much of this first half, he did not look like a good football player.
Yep.
He got much better, obviously, and he gets credit for that. Full marks for turning things around when you're getting buried. But I got to tell you, I didn't think he looked comfortable. Part of that was what we did. Part of that might have been the moment, prime time on the road for the school that he spurned. I don't know, but he looked like he was affected very early in this game, both by play and atmosphere. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Ira Schoffel, warchant.com, going to join us next. number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio, and away we go. Always fun when we get the opportunity to talk to our good buddy Ira Schoffel, of course, and we'll do so in a moment from warchant.com. But it's especially fun to do so this time around after an exhilarating victory. It's been so solemn over the last several years. Oftentimes when we have this conversation. By the way, we're online at ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you go to listen live via the streaming free always. Don't miss anything, but if you do go back, get caught up at your leisure, we'll post all 3 hours upon the conclusion of the show, both to the website, but always to Apple Podcasts as well, where you can find it and listen in whenever it's convenient for you. Email the show if you like, jcs at 979espnradio.com. On Twitter, it's at jcameron.show. Once again, good to be with you, YouTubers. All guests appear as we head to the Phone Hero Hotline. Via the Phone Hero Hotline, Ira Schoffel obviously joins us every Monday, does so now. Phone Hero specializing in iPhone and iPad repair. 2 locations, 2915 Cary Forest Parkway, 833 West Gain Street. Online at phoneherotlh.com. Here he is, Ira Schoffel, joining me now. Well, that was fun, man. What a fun game to cover. What a big win for the program. I imagine there's still a buzz right now and a lot of things to point out. You did on warchant.com. For those that don't know it, you can always read Ira's piece, the 321 there on warchant.com. I always enjoy his insight. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it's nice to have something good to talk about for sure.
It is. It's weird. We wondered aloud when we were talking last week on Tuesday and on Monday's show about some of the stuff that we saw. There were nuggets in that Notre Dame game. There were things that you saw that you could kind of look to and say, that's encouraging. For starters, we looked at that offense. It had an identity, Jordan Travis. They could build off of him, add more wrinkles to that spread option, all these things that help him out and not put him behind the chains and utilize a real strength of his, which is the ability not just to run the ball, but really to make people miss, and he's an inspirational leader in that way. He's tough, too, all of those things. And then that sets him up to be able to throw the ball and get some one-on-one situations. And then that carried over, Ira. We wondered if it would, but it certainly did in this game, and it really did for a half at the very least. And then also, they were somewhat inspirational at the end of that Notre Dame game. As bad as they had played on defense, especially against counter Trey the whole game, they still fought, they still hung in there, and they were able to get that last stand late in the game. We wondered if that would carry over, and I think to some degree it certainly did, and there's no doubt that it did when it comes to effort. Was that your observation as well?
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about it, and I didn't write necessarily this part of it, but I was thinking about it earlier, and then definitely when you were talking there. At the time, you see things as the season progresses that you think, okay, I wonder if this means that. I wonder if this could mean that. But you don't know for sure until it plays out. Mm-hmm. And you really can go all the way back to the Miami game. That last drive by the young guys, when Tate Rodemaker went in, and just the way the young receivers played, and the fact that there was a focus, the young running back, Philly. Yeah. I mean, you saw just some determination and engagement in a game where you got blown out. You thought, okay, that could be something positive. And then, like you said, I think in the Jacksonville State game, get down 2 scores early in that game, and then the way they came back. And at the time, Mike Norvell said, well, maybe we needed that. And, I'm sure some people rolled their eyes as, really? I mean, this was a gut check being down against Jacksonville State. But I do think it was a positive step. But you really you saw it manifest at Notre Dame, as you said, where they had a lead after 1 quarter and played basically most of 4 quarters right there with Notre Dame. And then you see what they did in this game. So I think those building blocks have been happening the whole time. It's just hard to point to them at the time because even while the coaches might hope that what they're seeing is true, you really can't say it until you see what happens down the road. So, yeah, I thought this game was kind of a manifestation of the growth we've been seeing probably the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. I get it sounds strange to people, I think, but when I watch the way they play on defense right now, listen, they've got problems personnel wise, but for the first time, the defensive line really showed up in this game. But the effort is always there, and they've got guys that they've pulled off the field, and others that are stepping in now and playing with passion, even if they're wayward, and that happens sometimes with guys like Steven Dix Jr. and others. but they're playing fast and they're playing hard and they played together. There seemed a semblance of a real plan here in that first half. Now, I personally, and I did it last hour with Tom, but I kind of question the reluctance of North Carolina to adjust to really brutalizing the Noles down the seams and exploiting the linebackers in the passing game. It took them too long, in my opinion, to do that. But I'm not in charge of North Carolina. I don't care why that happened. The bottom line is Florida State had a plan for the run game, and as best they could, they affected that run game a week after getting run all over. That's a really good sign.
Yeah, it definitely is. The defense, I mean, I thought there were a lot of things to like about it. There were some things to still not like about it, as you said. I mean, they definitely got exploited some pass coverage, some breakdowns in terms of safety play and communication. And then also, I thought the tackling was pretty poor for the most part. But at least they had guys around the ball, so that was positive to help out when one guy missed a tackle. But, I think North Carolina was a little surprised by Florida State's pass rush, and it stands to reason. I think they figured they probably could take more shots down the field, maybe on the edges with the receivers and even some of the underneath stuff. I thought Sam Howell got affected by that pressure. I was impressed by the way he came back later in the game.
Yes,
but there was a good chunk of that game where I thought he was watching the rush. I thought he was getting a little bit of antsy, not wanting to be too patient because he could feel that rush coming. And that was I just can't imagine North Carolina was prepared for that, because we haven't seen them get that kind of pressure with their front four really all season.
No, and I don't know what it was about Marvin, but he played better than he has in a long time. He looked like the guy that we often referred to in the past as being possessed and really a difficult matchup for teams, and he created havoc. He really hustled to the ball. Even when he was blocked, you saw he got his arms up. He did things to affect North Carolina's offense on almost every single play for a long stretch there. And then, you noted in your 3-2-1, that came out of nowhere with Dennis Briggs Jr., but they needed him. And this is exciting now. I mean, look, are they going to have a good defense this year? No, I don't think they're going to have a good defense this year. Does it have a chance to continue to get better? Oh, I think most certainly it does. And, one of the things that's going to be interesting is in that secondary. Obviously, it wasn't a great night for Akeem Dent Jr. He hasn't played well. But, I'll say this about Miko Dotson getting brutalized. He was in position on those plays most of the time. Ira, he's there in coverage, man. That's a receiver going up, making a play. He got mossed a couple times. But he is there. He's in coverage. So I can live with that, I can live with that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And as you referenced, I think at the beginning of kind of this coaching staff identifying, who they want out there and who they want out there in different situations. And I think we've seen drastic changes in some of that over the course of these 5 games. I think they've figured out some things from a personnel standpoint. And, he's a good example. I mean, I thought, he didn't have great success either, but I think they liked the way he competed more than maybe Akeem Dent on some of those plays. So I think you're going to see more Miko Dotson, Darian Jones at that other cornerback spot. And I think he also got back Jarvis Brownlee now has gotten into the mix at safety.
I like him. Yeah,
and he's going to make some mistakes also, but he's a physical guy. He's aggressive. Travis Jay now is back from his ankle injury. That was his first game back. You saw a couple of plays in there where I'm sure he's got to shake some rust off, but he had a couple of hits where you see that physicality from him. The more Steven Dix plays, the better he's going to get. So I think they're figuring out some things. And I think, where does this pass rush come from? Because that's the question everybody wants to ask is, where was this all season? I really think what's happening on offense is becoming a little bit contagious. The way Jordan Travis plays, the way LaDamian Webb plays, the way you're starting to see the offensive line come together. I just feel like there's kind of a surge of positive momentum that I think is rubbing the defense, rubbing off on the defense. And if those guys get some confidence, I've kind of seen them as a lost cause this season. But again, they gave up 560 yards or whatever, so it's not like they're going to be a great defense. But if they're going to be physical like they were, Jaden Lars-Woodby had that big hit on the crossing route. We just haven't seen that all year.
I about fell off the couch. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. This is the first play he's ever made.
Are they allowed to do that?
I was blown away.
So, again, if they could just give you something, the way the offense is playing, and just give you some physicality and get after the quarterback, that's all really good signs. So, the second half still happened also. But even when that happened, a lot of that was, there were a few broken plays, but a lot of that was, they had guys making spectacular plays, and Sam Howell is a really good quarterback when he buys time like that. So, yeah, man, it's good times for Florida State right now.
Well, they certainly give themselves a chance. So, now all of a sudden you go into the Louisville game and you go, okay, that's a winnable game. You play Pitt, that's a winnable game. NC State, that's a winnable game. Like, we're no longer kind of like, now you kind of go into these games with real expectations that you have a chance at success. Sure, we're not going to win the Clemson game no matter how much of a turnaround we see, but you can beat Virginia and Duke, and you can beat NC State and Pitt, and you can beat Louisville this Saturday, and what looked like a train wreck, what looked like something going into the side of a mountain, looks like something that maybe, just maybe, turns into the impetus for next season, where you get pumped up and a reason to believe in something moving forward. And that's true, too, as it resonates maybe with recruits, Ira. They have to show something is happening in Tallahassee that's worthy of taking a look at if you're a recruit and you had already decided, no need to test Florida State, no need to look at Florida State. Maybe now you convince a few kids, anyhow, to take a closer look if they can sustain some momentum.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt. I think it's positive inside the program and outside the program, as you talked about in recruiting. Because inside the program, I think that what you're seeing is guys who you're even seeing some older guys adjusting the way they approach things. You always wonder when there's a regime, change of regime, whether or not you're going to lose those older guys. And some of those older guys, I think most of us wanted them to move on from. But there were some key plays in that game. First of all, like you said, obviously Marvin played well. Janaris Robinson played well in stretches. Warren Thompson made that really nice catch, the way he kind of nonchalanted that catch so the DB didn't know the ball was coming.
Stunning development.
And you're seeing some of these guys that maybe you thought maybe they should cut bait with, they have turned on. So the fact that you've got that buy-in internally is big. But, yeah, in recruiting, there's no doubt. They've got – it's not just about – I think they have 16, 17 commitments right now. They're still in the mix with some pretty nice players. If you can get some of those guys, would be huge. But then the other thing is just keeping the guys you have. When they were 0-2, even when they were 1-3, when you're looking at maybe being 1-4, 1-5, something like that in the season, you start wondering, is that class going to completely crater?
Correct.
You lost Brandon Jennings last week, but I think this is a really big step in terms of just kind of stopping that negative traction. And then, as you said, if they can just start stacking some wins, now kids can see, okay, I want to be a part of that. And that's going to be a big boost for them in recruiting.
You tweeted it out. It was wise to do so because Derek Satterfield, the SID for football, noted that Florida State leads the NCAA with 5 block kicks. And, we were all, you and I and a lot of the others on the beat were covering that Norvell introductory press conference. And, boy, he really hammered that point home. His quote was, that's going to be the core of who we are. We're going to be one of the best special teams, football teams in the country because of the time we put into it, the commitment we have to it as a coaching staff and a football team. Well, it'd be nice if your kicker could make a couple chip shots or else this wouldn't have been a game, but, of course he didn't. But that's not really what special teams is about. It's really more about what we see with block punts, kick returns, punt coverage, kick coverage, all that stuff. And Florida State exploited an opportunity there. And Papuchis almost, basically predicted it. They thought they could get a punt block, and they got 2. One was really not immaterial, but the other one was a big damn deal. So, obviously they've been committed to it from the beginning. And I think more than the actual results there, they matter. It's that you're doing what you say you're going to do, and people can see the fruits of that labor in the design, and then that's proof of concept.
Yeah, especially coming off of, Willie Taggart's tenure, because that as much of anything else was really where I think people just lost patience with him, because he talked such a good game and said all of these things, and then there was no follow-through. And so now you have Mike Norvell makes that his talking point. Nobody went into that day for that introductory press conference thinking, I wonder what he's going to say about special teams. That was nobody expected that. That wasn't a requirement of the press conference, but he did make it a point, and then he has backed it up with the way he's treated it. And I think, man, here's the thing. I think the biggest thing about it, I mean, they can change the game in terms of the impact they have. Obviously, it's important, but also it's a mindset. You know, that, man, we aren't giving you anything. Like, there's nothing in this game. We're going to play for 60 minutes. There's nothing we do in this 60 minutes that we're just going to let you do easy just because that's what we do. Like, we're not going to sit in the NBA regular season where we're going to let you dunk because you're going to let us dunk. Everything you get, you're going to have to fight for. And I think that's a heck of a message, man. And I think it explains, again, when you went back and watched those Memphis teams, what I think the administration and other people liked about Mike Norvell's teams is they just competed so hard. And I think that's one of the building blocks of that mindset. And, man, if you can recruit to the level Florida State needs to recruit at, could recruit at, and you play with that kind of mindset and you have good schemes, you know, really it's hard not to get excited about the possibility.
Yep, it may be a little bit too far off for some people because it's tough to go through the growing pains. But, man, in the interim, you've got something to latch on to hitch your wagon to and believe in. It's always good, Ira, talking with you, brother. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Be well.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
All right, take care. That's Ira Schoffel, warchant.com, the website, of course. Read his 3-2-1 from yesterday. And, no, I think it's huge to stop the hemorrhaging in recruiting. You got to find a way. Listen, a lot of times it's overblown how much recruits look at results from games. You know, I think the average fan thinks that if you win a big rivalry game, you're guaranteed to get all the kids that were borderline. Or you get a win like this against a top 5 opponent that all of a sudden kids that wouldn't look at you are suddenly going to change their tune and reshuffle their top 5. It may not be that impactful, but what you do is change perceptions about what the program is and where it's going. And if you can do that slowly but surely, I think you build some goodwill to where maybe a kid who's got you down there at like 8, 9, or 10 in his thoughts as to, you know, schools to look at, considers a visit when we can do that again. Considers you in the top 5 and says, okay, they seem to have some momentum there. I like the offense they're running. I like the way that they've got kids, buying in. Maybe there's real leadership there. Okay, they're no longer hemorrhaging, as I said. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
But maybe that's how I found you. Maybe that's taught me exactly
I guess you would just hold on to Adam Gase for what? Just to hope that they don't win a game? Is that why they're holding on to him? I mean, you got your defense coordinators ripping your ass in the press conference after. I mean, it's the silliest thing ever.
You got your chauffeur to the first overall pick, and his name is Gase.
I think so. The Giants got a win they didn't deserve. Kyle Allen gave the game away for Washington on 2 different occasions, but at least now they've got a win. Atlanta got a win. So you're starting to look for the way to that first pick. I guess it's just to hold on to him.
I believe they do not have 100 points yet, and they played 6 games.
Tough times to be a Jets fan right now. You kind of know what to expect every week, I suppose. It was a weird NFL weekend in that there were some teams that looked absolutely dead and buried from the get-go. One of them was the Rams, and then one of them, too, besides that game that kind of, I guess I wouldn't say it was alarming, but you'd kind of look at the game and go, oh, my goodness. Cleveland, I took the Steelers, as you well know, and won that game, and I had a feeling based on the pressure rates that the Steelers provide, which is the best in the league right now, and then what Baker Mayfield's not doing against pressure, coupled with stories out of camp that he missed this, out of practice this past week, that he missed some time and that he's injured. I thought, well, this adds up to a chance to cover the 3.5. 38-7 later, and there are question marks about whether or not Baker Mayfield knows what he's looking at, and I question that too. But also New England, they haven't had a chance to practice when you go back to that game, but I saw it again. It happened. It's the same thing we saw from a couple years ago. Cam doing that shot putty thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 throws in this game where he did that little. I don't know what that is, but
it's like a 2-step throw.
Oh, it's a
1, 2.
Yeah, but it's a push. It's not even It's not even a flick. It's
you see his shoulder pad kind of flip when he makes the motion.
It's a weird looking throw, and it's the same thing he was doing in Carolina before we thought he's not right. I don't know if he's not right or not, or if that's just a bad habit. But that throw, it's a pick. One of them, when you go back and watch that, you go, that looks like a child throwing a football. That there's no arm strength in that whatsoever. It's shot putty. It's like he has to effort just to get the ball 25 yards down the field. Strange. That doesn't bode well for them moving forward, obviously. They don't have a lot of weapons as is in New England, and if he can't be the playmaker, then they're not going to win games.
It did bode well if you had Brandon McManus on your fantasy team, because Wonderleg over there is worth 27 points with the yardage bonuses.
Yeah, I had the misfortune this weekend of going against somebody who had Henry. Yeah, Derrick Henry.
Oh, my team has been hot garbage, but I had Julio, Deshaun Watson, Justin Jefferson, and McManus. That's a good week.
I'm still really, really angry because I had Julio and I had Calvin Ridley and I had Matt Ryan, and I was doing just fine. And then I look up and my opponent has Derrick Henry. And let me tell you something: the Houston Texans should have won that game. They were the better team for the vast majority of the day. Mm-hmm. And one of my frustrations is that's just to me an illustration of how strong, in a league full of really strong guys, Derrick Henry is. What do you think's going to happen when they put him in the Wildcat on the 7-yard? What do you think's going to happen? He's going to run the ball. He's not going to throw the ball. The whole world knows he's going to run the ball. What are we doing here? What are the Texans doing? They acted like, ooh, I don't know, he could throw it. He's not going to throw it. His big ass is going to run it. Let's go. What are you doing?
He nearly got to 22 miles per hour at that size.
The little first play of the overtime. And by the way, Deshaun Watson's not wrong to weep when he loses the coin toss because it's over. You're not going to get a stop, especially if you're not going to bother to stop Derrick Henry, who's the
I think Tennessee fans, there have to be a couple. The numbers demand there are a couple who listen to this program. Do you guys always win that game? Because I feel like Tennessee always wins that game. When it comes down to last second, got to score, got to advance it. In the Mariota days, it was like that. In these days, it's like that. They've got to have an abundance of confidence if it comes down to the final seconds that they're going to be the one that comes out on top, because they almost always do.
The setup now for Titans Steelers. That's I want to watch that game as much as I want to watch any game not named Packers Bucks this past weekend. I cannot wait to watch that football game.
Hey man, Raiders Bucks on Sunday night is a good game.
We play like that, we'll hammer the Raiders. If we play like we just did, we'll hammer the Raiders. But you're right, there's no guarantees we will.
Josh Jacobs can bring it too.
Yeah, he can run. Yeah, I like Josh Jacobs a lot. Derrick Henry right now is my favorite player to watch in the NFL. He really is.
So the craziest stat from the weekend comes from college. Did you see the Clemson box score outside of the final score of the game?
My God, was that
They completed passes to, I believe it was 17 different receivers. Like only one team, I got to get the number right, but only one team has completed passes to more receivers than Clemson did just on Saturday, and it's Pitt. That's it. Whole country. Clemson completes passes to nearly 20 dudes in one game.
Yeah, that was a damn shame what happened there. That was something to behold. I mean, you're sitting
Could have heard it right on these airwaves and found something else to listen
and
to.
yeah, not for long. You didn't need to continue to hear it on these airwaves. My goodness gracious. That was frightening. Listen,
33 receptions total for the team across 17 players.
is there any doubt, and this is what's fun about football, but it's also maddening. Is there any doubt that two things are true right now? If the Noles played Georgia Tech this weekend, they'd win by 3 touchdowns?
I would think so.
Florida State would win.
Yeah, what would the number be?
Yeah,
Vegas.
Florida State would win going away against Georgia Tech right now.
You'd probably have the number somewhere between 16 and 18 for the Noles, right? Something like that.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing that's true is, this is less true. So I shouldn't state it with such certainty, but I feel good about it, and I'll put my money where my mouth is when the time comes. The Bucs would beat the Saints right now pretty handily. Pretty handily. First games. You know, what are you going to do?
Get a crack at them in a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, but the Noles would hammer Georgia Tech right now. That's such a
Well, do what you're supposed to do on Saturday. This is a program. I know Louisville's improved, and that score in South Bend is weird.
I watched that game.
12-7.
I watched a lot of that game. They played spectacularly on defense. I mean, they completely shut down all the zone read stuff, everything. Seemed to have a handle on everything Notre Dame was doing.
And they've been hapless up to that point. Completely.
Hapless indeed. It didn't look any better than it was a year ago when they were on defense.
And that's a program that Willie swept while here. Louisville. 2-0 against the Cards. Let's keep that momentum going in our division because we've beaten them in a couple of key recruiting battles. Unfortunately, it's the likes of Louisville and Ole Miss, Mississippi State, that we're competing for a lot of these
baby steps.
three-star recruits.
You got to do what you got to do.
But you got to beat them to continue that momentum. When kids are looking at Louisville and they look at us, and they look back at Louisville and they look back at us, they say, Norvell, I like you. You got something going down there.
Got early lines on college football for this week. I obviously saw that we are a 5-point underdog to Louisville.
It moved. I was at, and I don't mean like George Costanza. I mean the line moved. It's 6.5. I think was what it opened as. Yeah.
What?
It's
it went the other way? Oh, I would have thought it would have gone to 2.
No, it did. I mean, it started 6.5. Now it's at 5.
Oh,
it's
I thought you were saying
0.
it went from 5 to 6.5.
No,
like it kept going.
No,
what?
No, it opened at 6.5 is what I saw.
Oh, it'll be 2 before the week's over. What do we do at 3?
It's transitive on Notre Dame. Probably what that is.
Really, okay. North Carolina heavy favorites over their in-state rival. They may have been looking ahead to.
They're heavy favorites because
the quarterback broke his leg.
Yeah, and a nasty break.
Yeah,
and Hockman comes in and he looks sorry.
Boy, Billy Hockman. We were all saddened when he left. Thank God he did. He's terrible. When you watch him play, like, you can't play a lick.
You talk about body language too. He doesn't want to be there.
I understand that. Who wants to be in the Piss Palace? That's NC State for you. Yeah, the fair's right down the road. They're the losers of the triangle. Everybody around them's better in everything. It's just got to hurt your heart.
There were a couple of fan shots this weekend because I did have that game on middle of the afternoon, and it was every bit what you would expect to see near the fairgrounds.
We have a candidate, and it's so early in the week, and there's no way there's going to be anybody else that we're going to choose here. So just get ready for it come Friday with the hell to the gnaw.
Okay.
Since we brought it back. Did you see what that number is for Syracuse, Clemson?
It opened at 38.5, I think.
It's at Clemson.
What's it up to?
46. They can't set it high enough. 46.
You still got to take Clemson at that number.
I'll take Syracuse plus 46. You won our wager. Right. You won our wager this last week by taking the Noles. Give me the Cuse plus 46.
I took the Noles plus 13.
You did take the Noles plus 13. Yeah. Didn't need those points.
Tall boys. Somebody's winning, tall boys.
Yeah. So you evened it up. I was one up on you. Now we're even. So here we go. Give me the sorry-ass Orange plus 46. My God.
Ooh, you came with the good stuff. Natties.
Plus 46. I'm going to cover 46. I got to. They're not.
Syracuse plays Clemson tough historically. Got to throw the records out.
Well, I'm just betting that. I mean, who does Clemson have after Syracuse? Look that up. But I'm principal. Give me Syracuse plus 46. Good Christ.
Does it matter who Clemson has after Syracuse?
Yes, it does. Yes, I want to know who Clemson has after Syracuse. There's not many teams that could make them look ahead, but maybe there's one on the horizon. Who do they have after Syracuse?
They got BC.
Oh, boy. That ain't one of them.
BC is the one because Notre Dame would be the following weekend. So if you're looking for a trap game,
yeah.
it's on
trap
Halloween.
as in they only win by 30 and not 46.
Right, well, against the number. Trap against the number.
Right. Yeah. All right. By the way, welcome back to Big Ten this week, everybody, where you will get to see the likes of Ohio State and Nebraska, where the Big Ten said, all right, Nebraska, you want to play football so bad? Here you go. Here's a little Ohio State to start it off. Get some Buckeye loving for that ass, Nebraska.
Bend over.
Yeah, they loaded him up early in that schedule, too. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, we'd be happy. Let's play some football, Nebraska.
Bend over.
You get Oklahoma, TCU, and listen, is there any better story right now than my boys out there at Arkansas? Woo, Pig Suey again.
Big Suey.
Yeah, buddy.
Hey, there's an early number you might be interested in. I believe Baylor is a 10.5-point dog to Texas right now.
Okay, I am interested. The annual disappointment that is Texas football. My God.
That number was at 13 to start, I think. Might have been 14.
Pitt's getting 10.5 against Notre Dame. Football's weird right now.
Weird result.
It is.
That cost me a few potato chips.
The Notre Dame game?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had 7. I didn't like the 17.5, but I understand why you did it.
It was a very pizza money bet, but I wanted to keep the action into the midday.
You're having trouble with some of these ACC teams. Didn't Virginia Tech just beat BC's ass?
They did not cover the 12, did BC. That's
No,
correct. And NC State took care of business for me, I believe. It's all right.
Hey, BYU. 12.
I brought BYU was a 40-unit play for me this week.
Yeah, that worked out
That was
well.
nerve-wracking through about three quarters.
My
but they
big
took care
unit
of
play of the
business.
weekend was the Steelers over Cleveland, and I also had Kentucky over Tennessee. That was
I
one
took Tennessee.
Yes, you did.
That's right. That's
now
fine.
you know though. I told you the secret there. Tennessee's quarterback cannot throw the ball.
I also played live yesterday.
Oh, that helps. That helps.
I did.
Play the Bucks. You get some odds there.
I did.
As
Even
we go
money
along?
on Bucks minus 14 when it was 31-10. You could see it. Rodgers was done.
He was done. He didn't
was
want to be
done.
there.
So essentially, you're ahead 7-0 in that case on even money.
He
Done.
absolutely did not want to be there.
So that was a good live wager. Smart choice of the weekend.
Well, you're making some moves there, guys. Last one. Nobody cares about my bad beats. Tom got the text when it happened. Let me tell you something. West Virginia can go to hell for life.
I was on the wrong end of that as well.
Well, this is ridiculous. We got the cover. The cover is in play. It's over. The game is over. There's a buck left to play. There's a minute.
Yeah. It is a late cover that we got, but we got the cover.
The cover is there. It's 38-10. We're going home. We're moving on Big River to the next one. And they kick it off, and they give up a 95-yard kickoff return as basically as time is expiring.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It takes 30 seconds to happen. For all you NCAA players,
and then, oh, my God.
for all you old school NCAA players, it's like playing on Heisman mode, and the FCS team returns a kick for a touchdown. It takes 25 seconds to happen. Slow torture.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I was watching it. My dad just cracked up. He's looking at my face because I uttered something when he broke the first tackle. I go, you got to tackle him. Somebody tackle him, and I see him get to the outside after he breaks that next tackle.
67 speed.
I'm like, what do we – somebody – and then it's the kicker. I'm like, oh, that kicker's not going to catch him?
It takes a bad angle, too.
Well, he's a kicker. He had no chance. I just couldn't believe it. I hate West Virginia even more now. In the NFL, not good news out of Carolina. They've closed their facility after receiving an unconfirmed positive result from their latest round of COVID-19 testing. That, according to the team, today. So bad news there. That's they're going to rerun in order to confirm. According to the Panthers, players and staff will be working remotely on Monday and Tuesday. They plan to be back on Wednesday. That will depend on the result of the second test, though, and we'll see. For now, no positive tests throughout the NFL until that test came back positive today.
Also, Cam Irving was put on COVID-19 reserve list today by the Cowboys. He has not tested positive, as you note, but he's not feeling well. And I guess the symptoms are enough that they decided to put him on that particular part of the exemption list.
We wish Cam Irving well. Young man has had a nice little NFL career for himself and bounces around, but has had some success and continues to be on rosters. And obviously, we wish him well and in good health. The Saints are going to play their Week 7 game against the Panthers, aforementioned Panthers, in the Superdome, not Tiger Stadium. So more as these days go by now, daily, we sit around going, who's going to be the next team that has to delay, shift, or relocate?
Yeah, the Raiders had somebody put on COVID-19 today, the COVID-19 list. It was somebody who's on injured reserve, a corner, first-round pick. But, of course, anytime you get one within an organization and the Bucs are supposed to go out there and play this Sunday night, you're just waiting to see if there are others, because that's how Tennessee was.
Speaking of which, there's a football game to be played in about 13 minutes, our time. That's what you get. Kansas City and Buffalo, 5 o'clock. Kansas City and Buffalo, on paper, certainly looks to be a good matchup at 4-1. We'll see what the two teams look like. Strange timing for this football game. And then later tonight, hey, listen, I'm never against doubleheaders for football. You got Arizona and Dallas. Weird game, 8:15. Figures to be an awful lot of scoring. Should be noted, Arizona's last two games have featured Kyler Murray playing terribly. He should not have a rough night tonight. He's going against Dallas's defense. And given the amount of weapons Dallas has, and given how poorly Arizona's defense plays, I suspect we'll get a shootout in this game tonight. Should be a lot of points, so if you've got fantasy players that remain, you're going to do all right.
I did go the distance last night, and I did watch Game 7 of the NLCS to the bitter end, so I don't know that I'm going to make it unless that is a real knockdown drag-out between the Cardinals and Cowboys.
I'll tell you what, I climbed into bed with the Braves holding the lead, and my wife always wants me to turn off the television and not stay up to watch the game, and I'm like, baby, it's Game 7. I kind of got to watch this. I'll put it down really, really low. I want to watch.
That was you.
That was me. That's me. I really, really want to watch. Woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning. TV's still on. That's why she gets angry at me. I didn't even have the time to put the timer on. I was so tired. I just called it a day. But woke up at 1 and thought, I bet the Braves won. Let me see if we've got a Rays Braves. Pulled up my phone and went, almost at 1 something in the morning. I almost texted Corey Clark to say, my buddy, I'm so sorry. More Atlanta choking.
I let that one be.
Well, you got to let
that's
that one be.
A tough one.
It's brutal. Got up, watched the last 4 innings that I missed, 3.5 innings that I missed.
Yeah.
Saw the home run and went, that ball was hit to the moon.
Indeed it was.
He made sure you knew it, too. It's Game 7. I don't mind if you stand and watch, but my God.
Speaking of trajectory, how about that throw by Jordan to Keyshawn Helton? That thing was a lollipop.
It
eventually
got there. Well, listen, the one thing that's true, and we can laud Jordan Travis and should laud Jordan Travis all we want, but he is not a drop-back passer, folks. This is stay ahead of the chains, win with the run game, win with his ability to run, and then set up those passes where you get a guy open, spring open because of the RPO or the spread option stuff that you're using. If they know a pass is coming, you're going to be in real trouble. He doesn't really have that.
No, but he can throw area passes quite well, like he did to Pokey, and that's the one that was reviewed and came back. And then he can hit the fly down the field a little bit, but that was just an on the run. And when it comes off of his hand, I'm watching with Jamie. I'm like, oh, no.
No.
What is that? That's going to hit the ceiling. There is no ceiling, but it's going to hit it.
How athletic was Ontario Wilson on the play where he dives for the pylon? I know he's out, but my God, that's athleticism there.
Set the feet and
Yeah,
explode.
set the feet and explode. I mean, he's tripped up. The two come together, and it's like a pogo stick. It's unbelievable, that level of athleticism.
Also, I thought it was good that the defense continued to fight because when you see somebody get run over like Renardo Green did by Javonte Williams,
My God.
sometimes that portends of a loss forthcoming, and that was not the case. We continued to fight, and we came back for more.
That will hurt your feelings.
That was unholy.
That was, that's a big man, big, strong, fast, agile.
Yeah.
North Carolina's got some running backs now.
He was the one to worry about because you got the scat, but then he blocks or breaks tackles like Williams from Notre Dame
That's
does.
a grown-ass man running the ball. You can see it, too. When you look at him, you're like, that'd be a tough guy to bring down.
He doesn't have to lower his shoulder to have that effect on people. That's how strong he is.
Yeah, strong guy. Not Derrick Henry strong. 53-yard catch and run going 21 miles per hour. 6'3", 250 pounds of get you some. Good God.
That always reminds me, and I
Tour
saw
de force.
it was tweeted into the timeline this weekend, but the Derrick Henry Mark Ingram photo from the 50-yard line.
Oh, yeah, where one's
see if I can
it looks
find
like the Statue of Liberty versus...
Yeah, and Mark Ingram's like, oh my, look at this guy. We played for the same program for the YouTubers. I'll put it up there. Oh,
I
my
know.
goodness. Look at Mark.
No,
I mean, Mark is a wide and strong running back. He's really like a muscle hamster type. And this guy his arm is bigger than Mark Ingram.
Derrick Henry looks like he is at a defensive end.
Yeah, it's those Sean Oakman photos.
He's a defensive end is what he looks like. He's absolutely massive.
That's absurd.
And I think he's gotten faster since he got into the league.
Yeah.
Listen, he was always fun to watch run because big guys running like that, built like that, are fun. But I don't remember him having that kind of speed to get the edge as frequently as he does now.
This is the best one because you can get a sense of the of the scale that we're talking about here. That's just he's unreal. He is made to play against the Steelers twice a year if he's not playing for them.
It's a fun thing to watch, man.
It's too bad they're not in the same division.
The weekend statements around the NFL were bountiful. You had the Bucs defense making the statement they made against Green Bay. You have Derrick Henry doing what he does every week. And, it should be noted that, when you get out from under the tutelage of Adam Gase, you can maybe do some things as quarterback because they've got one in Tennessee. He's playing well. Tannehill's good. I mean, he just makes plays, and obviously it helps to have that running game and an elite receiver like Adams, but there's real talent there. That's a fun team to watch play.
If you look at yards, like some big numbers here, yards, completion percentage, quarterback rating, yards per attempt, he's on par with Mahomes in the last 10, 12 games.
No, he's played really, really well. He's fun to watch, but the Steelers make a statement again as they're the team to beat in the division. That's going to be a war, and listen, that's a huge step back for Cleveland. Baker Mayfield looked like a child. He looks ridiculous trying to make plays against the Steelers. I'm going to chalk some of that up to the fact that the Steelers' defense is really good and that he was hurt. But that was not a good look.
It's a nice answer from Mike Tomlin, whose job was on the line. It's like Dave Roberts saved his job last night with that win and sticking with the Urias to close out the final three innings.
Yeah, that helps.
Mike Tomlin was teetering there for a minute. And look at this response. They find another receiver you never heard of until you hear about him every week. And that defense, one trade with Minkah Fitzpatrick, seemed to change everything about the scope of what they were as
defense. And we could have had him. But one thing to note, too, is in addition to that, several other things that you saw over the weekend that are kind of fun where you doff the cap a little bit. I know it's the Jets, but still, the Dolphins have bounced back nicely after a slow start, and it was really, really cool to see Ryan Fitzpatrick cheer on as Tua comes into the game, and that looked genuine to me. He knows what he is. Yeah. He's waiting for. He's keeping the seat warm. He's got it. That was really, really cool. I liked watching that. I liked watching DeAndre Swift in that. Listen, that was a fun game to watch. Just because there was offense all over the place for them, and then I had chalked it up as dead and buried, done, hard to watch play anymore. But Phillip Rivers come back.
That was quite the tale of about a quarter and a half for the rest of the game.
Well, he's been awful all year, and this looked like it was going to be another moment where you could put the ribbon on it.
It's
but
Jacoby Brissett time, yeah.
Yep, and then the 21 points, so good for him. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with. of the Jeff Cameron Show, at least for today. It's a fun one to do. Most of them are, but especially after a victory, an upset win like that, maybe something that propels this program forward. A little bit better season than maybe many people thought prior to Saturday night. I can say that. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. We're online, ESPNTallahassee.com. That's where you're going to listen live via the streaming free always. You guys know that. If you're joining us late or if you missed large chunks of the show because you're busy, you work for a living, I got you. All 3 hours going to get posted upon the conclusion up on Apple Podcasts. Hello, YouTubers. Knowles get the win. And I had to hang on for dear life, but it doesn't really matter. When you're in desperate need of getting a victory, something to fill your hearts, to make you believe, to give you hope, to latch on to further bond. You can hear it there, by the way, at the end of the montage there. Good work, Tom Wang. It seemed apropos. I got a text Saturday night, a lot of them. We all did. On Saturday night.
Yeah, the phones are back and they're alive again. Yeah, a lot of friends from out of town. We don't hear from them in football season anymore.
Yeah, I got a text from a buddy saying you're going to stick with the Van Halen theme because of the recent passing of Eddie Van Halen, and he was clamoring for a montage. And I thought Tom and I have high standards for these montages. Not only the way that they're put together, but the music that I pick. He does the hard work. I'll just suggest a song, but we're sitting there and I'm kind of thinking in my head. Should I even talk to Tom about doing a montage because we beat North Carolina? Yeah, you know what? We should probably have a montage because we beat North Carolina. That's how far down we are. And I thought, well, if you're going to do it, you got to embrace the cheese and go all in with Dreams. I mean, because they use Climb in it. It's perfect. And admittedly, given the joy I felt for those kids, and I mean this, the joy I feel for those kids, it is kind of a perfect song for it because you want something uplifting there. You want something to believe in. You want something that helps you kind of see a brighter future. That song sounds an awful lot like that. And it worked perfectly. Good work out of you, sir. And to note that we all were jumping around and answering those phone calls and celebrating a moment that we haven't had a lot of in a long time, and that is Florida State winning a game where they're not supposed to. We said in the pregame show, it's not illegal to pull off an upset. You're allowed to do it. It happens throughout college football every year. Any given Saturday, I'm flipping around and I see somebody that's a 20-point or a 15-point or a 10-point underdog, and they have the ball down 3 or up 3, and you're thinking, we got a possible upset here. That's all I was hoping for in the fourth quarter of Saturday night's game, and I kept reminding myself of that when the score went from 31-7 to 31-28. North Carolina had the ball. I kept thinking two things. A, we're going to lose this game and that's going to suck. And B, okay, if I had said to everybody in that stadium, if I had said in the pregame show or during the course of the week, Florida State is going to have the lead with under 3 minutes to play. Any score, 3-0 or 50-48, it doesn't matter. Whatever it would be, you'd say, or 50-47, I'll take that. I will take that, right? And so I kept, all right, we're in a position to win the game. Can it happen? And sometimes you need a little bit of help, and you got it. North Carolina couldn't hold on to the football, and you get that win. And some of it, too, I thought was the football gods smiling upon Florida State, but in truth, they really probably should have been in a position to have already salted that game away. You don't get the dumbass penalty on the 2-yard line in the opening drive of the second half, and you go up 38-7. This game is a wash. In fact, not only is that game a wash, I don't think North Carolina goes on to score anywhere near 28 points if they get down 38-7, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah, if we're the number 5 team in the country and North Carolina is unranked and we win in that fashion, you're furious on a Monday. You are furious because you had a chance to put the team away, and that's what winning teams do. But when you are as desperate as we are, I mean, so when the clock hits 000, I've got a 10-minute warning before we go do the post-game show. And, it's been easy these first few weeks because the results were in hand either way, even for the Jacksonville State to the good. Like, you kind of know where you're going to go. It was hard to concentrate on a few key thoughts because that was a 4-hour marathon of all the emotions in the world, the unexpected joy of the first half, and then the nervousness. I mean, down the stretch, North Carolina's got the ball. They're pinned back in their own territory. They convert in a 2nd and 15 on a jump ball. At that point, I mean, I put it out there. I said, do you think we're going to finish? And every response, except for like 2 or 3, was no, they're not. They never do. And that's how I felt, too. It was just, you had to believe it and turn back to the TV and say, Are we sure that they didn't throw a flag at any point, or there's not a review of some kind? Did that really just happen? Did we actually eke out one of these things?
Well, we live in a time where everything is reviewed ad nauseum, but I'd also say flags are thrown all the time for football-related plays or activities that I never thought would be, flag-worthy in years past. So, admittedly, when the ball fell harmlessly incomplete after what's-his-face dropped it, I thought, well, surely there's going to be, hold on, there's a flag. I kept waiting for it. I couldn't even celebrate. I did that thing where you wait and wait. Oh, no flags? Okay, we won. We won the game. I get why people would have tweeted at you, we never do. This doesn't feel like the teams of the past that blew those games and found ways to fall to pieces because they didn't believe in it. I feel like this is a whole new year. Not that they've given us a reason to think that they're going to close, given the Georgia Tech game. But even that game was the weirdest game. Think about, you get ready for your first game if you're Mike Norvell. It's the debut. That game's delayed significantly because of lightning, despite crystal clear blue skies and whatever else. But, okay, that happens. Then they play the game. They start the game. You go right down the field and score. You're dominating. You've got all the momentum in the world, and you got to come off the field yet again. So you had this it was fits, and it was frustrating. And so I still feel like that was kind of weird. They were never in the Miami game. That's not choking anything away. They were never in that game. Jacksonville State, they finish strong. They start off poorly. They're a fractured team. They make a change at quarterback. The next thing you know, boom, 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 5 straight touchdown drives. They win the game, almost going away. They finished strong there. They finished the Notre Dame game. They weren't good enough. They got run on, counter trail all night long. It was going to be a long night because you're talking about one of the best offensive lines in football going against, at that time, up until this past Saturday night, a vastly underachieving defensive line. So, yet they fought, and they overachieved on offense on the road, and they found an identity, and they end up getting a stop late in the fourth quarter that indicates they're all in and they're willing to finish. They may not be good enough, but they're all in, willing to finish. And now this just furthers that. They come in this game. They've got a great game plan. You really got to give it to our coaches. Papuchis did a great job early with the special teams. We've talked about it today. Then you take a look at the defensive ends, who he also coaches. They looked better than they have at any point this year. The defensive line plays hard, plays smart, plays pretty well, especially for a half, and they get worn down over time because they're missing a lot of guys. Durden gets kicked out at the end of the second quarter, so you're really without 3 major components to your defensive line, and yet I never felt like that I didn't feel like they wouldn't finish because of a woe is us, here we go again mentality. It was just that they were getting worn down. This is different. They are bought in. They are bought in. They are fighting and believing and trusting this coaching staff. And this goes a long way in bolstering that trust. That's why the result matters. Because you do it and you fight and then you continue to lose. Eventually the fight goes away. They get the win. It's possible. Now they know it's possible. Not just a win. This isn't just a win. You didn't just beat Jacksonville State. You beat the number 5 team in the country. So at this point, there's no reason you wouldn't go to practice today believing you're going to beat Louisville. Whether you do or you don't, we'll see on Saturday. But you wouldn't begin the week believing anything other than we're preparing to beat Louisville's ass. That's what they're thinking.
And that's the thing, you talked to Ira last hour, but in the 3-2-1 that I agree with. The hard part this week for the coaching staff is, hey, whoa, now. 31-7 in the first half. That's what we can do when we put it all together. The 3 phases of the game, they all play together in harmony, and we play a complete game, complementary football. That second half has a whole bunch of yesteryear's errors. 2017, 2018, 2019 kind of stuff. And guys, we can't have that. We're going on the road playing a well-coached team that's going to be ready, feeling pretty good about themselves for the effort they put out there defensively, especially against Notre Dame.
Well,
they believe, too.
Yes, they do.
So don't you go in there over... Yes.
I like this. This is a fight. This will be a fight. This will be a fun game. Louisville got something that's very, very similar to what Florida State got. Now, other side of the ball. Louisville has been absolutely a nightmare to watch on defense. They have been an embarrassment. Their fans have been livid, and rightfully so. It's year 2. They've shown no improvement whatsoever on the defensive side of the ball. And frankly, their offense is underachieving because everybody loved that quarterback.
Malik Cunningham.
You've noted he's a fraud from day one. All right.
Might not look it against our defense, but against the expectations,
he's not a real player.
He's Bo Nix light. Yes.
Bo Nix. Sorry ass again. I could go on for days about that. Anyhow, back to this, he doesn't look to be the star that they made him out to be, meaning they be the press, right?
Choo-Choo Atwell scares the hell out of me, but not Malik Cunningham.
Right, and against our defense, a lot of people look good, so I understand they may move the ball here. But they got affirmation on the defensive side of the ball that whatever it was they were teaching them and trying to encourage them to do, to execute week to week, that hadn't worked up until this point, worked in a big way in South Bend against an offense that's really hummed against almost everybody. So they now have the confidence that they've turned the corner with their weakest unit on the field. Florida State, in the meantime, gets a big win, believes they've turned the corner. They've got an identity on offense. They know how to scheme for it. And by the way, you've got to give an awful lot of credit to Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham. You've got to know that, I brought it up before, but I don't, for all the leadership and the skill that you have with Jordan Travis and running the ball, he is not a great passer. He is more than serviceable when you factor in all of the elements to his game. But you got to continue to win first down or you're dead. I think we had 6 completions in the first half. 6. They're not relying on him to throw the football to win games. They set it up with that run game. They get him moving around, and then you pop somebody big down the field. And it works so long as you're winning first down, winning second down, and you put yourself in a position to make those plays. You lose first down, and he's going to look bad.
Well, and you lose him, we're going to look bad. I know that Chubba Purdy, everybody wants to see him, and so do I, but that left shoulder is the thing I'm thinking about all week because he could start, but if it's an AC issue or a collarbone issue...
You're going to have to start getting Chubba ready.
Or whatever it is, you're one hit away.
Well, and he's a smallish kid, is Jordan Travis, and the heart he runs with, the what for he runs with, the never give up style of running the football, he does put himself at risk, and he has to in order for us to succeed on offense. And, I love him for it, but he is prone to injury because of it. So you've got to be prepping the hell out of Chubba Purdy because you can't go with the way you're running this offense now, the way you're game planning this offense now. Everything is built around running the football, getting him outside the pocket, the spread option that we're running now. You can't suddenly game plan for a drop-back passer.
Right.
You're not going to do that. So Chubba's the next logical choice.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I think the reason that James was going to come into that game was because of the high leverage nature of the situation. That's not mop-up duty one way or the other.
It's unfair to do that to a kid. Yeah, your first game, here you go, hold on for dear life.
Yeah, yes. If you wanted to see Chubba Purdy on Saturday, then blame Dante Lucas because if we score on that drive, there's a good chance in the fourth quarter you do see Chubba Purdy this past weekend.
Yeah. Also, that first half, it was stunning to see that North Carolina, we talked about this all day, but very few, I counted less than 3, excuse me. I think it was 2. I got to double check it again, go back and watch again. But I think it was maybe fewer than 3 explosive pass plays for North Carolina in the first half.
That's correct. Stunning.
Yeah, it
Stunning.
was.
I haven't been this aghast at game plan against us since David Cutcliffe calls a trick play when we're on the road for a noon kick a few years back for Jimbo.
Or our friend at Boston College.
Oh, well, I mean,
Lee did that. Yeah.
Jesus, North Carolina.
But Kane Doe and Big Coop and Marvin showed up, and Janarius Robinson played well, and listen, it's not lost on me that Leonard Warner wasn't out there.
Mm-hmm.
People get benched. This group will bench your ass.
He's the starter now. Steven Dix was listed as number 1 on the depth chart this week to follow the start. He played all but a few snaps, I think, in that game.
He pretty much played the whole game.
Yeah.
They have clearly made a decision.
How about Gaynor? Gaynor was only brought in as a package
9
player.
plays or something like that.
I noticed that in the beginning, and I was about to tweet out, is everything all right with Gaynor? And then I saw him on a third down, and I figured, okay, maybe he's out there more than my eyes are telling me. But then the report afterwards says, no, man, he played basically in third down situations.
That's a mistake. I think you got to better utilize him. Now, it's hard to complain about what you did, especially in the first half, but I think it's a mistake. I think he needs to be on the field a lot. He is a diverse, interesting athlete who does a lot of things well. I think he plays hard. He plays smart. He's one of the few guys on this team that looks like a Florida State football player. I mean, body type wise.
I tend to agree, but the way the ends were playing, now they still crashed and they didn't keep outside contain an awful lot. That was still happening. It didn't happen as much, but it was still happening. But they played hard, and if you wanted to get him near the line of scrimmage in certain situations, I mean, Kane Doe and Robinson were doing enough work. And they even rotated in some younger players at end. Mm-hmm. McClendon?
Yeah, they're trying some stuff here. You had walk-ons.
And Griffiths was there, of course.
You had walk-ons at times.
High motor.
You got the walk-on that tied in.
Yeah.
That play is the play of the night, man. How cool is that play?
So immediately I thought there was going to be an illegal man downfield call, which they don't typically call in college anyway. But Maurice Smith does a really good job. He was
Great
about a
job.
yard and a half past the line of scrimmage. That's plenty close enough in college. To
in
not get the
college,
flag.
the rule is different too. It's
Yeah.
3 yards in college, so
Yeah.
you can do that. It's a stupid rule. It's unfair, but you got to take advantage of the rules
Yeah.
when they're in your favor. Yeah.
But that was the thing against Miami. I thought if Jordan could complete a forward pass, and that was the problem with his arm. Now, at the time, we're worried about his shoulder and his arm. You knew that play was going to be open at some point, and we finally have it to
How
Daniel.
really cool is that? That little, the tight end leaks down the field, and you kind of run over there.
Yeah.
This little bubble, come back over. It was wide the hell open.
We've got like 50 scholarships available with all these kids leaving. You got to get Preston Daniel one of them, I would think. He's from Memphis, so he's got the connection to coach from where he came. And
You got bless that kid's heart. He looks like a walk on.
he's got
he's got
5'2" speed,
Yeah,
but
he's
he's wide the hell open.
Oh, I'm not. I mean, listen, good for him. He made the play. Got to catch the ball.
We got out to the 40.
You
That's
gotta
a huge
catch, Yeah,
play.
you got to catch the ball. I loved one of the things that I like that I'm seeing again that portends of more growth and buy-in. They're going to lose some games. They got games on the schedule. They're still going to lose. They're not a great football
Lose
team.
this weekend.
I don't want to overstate that. But look how happy they are for guys when they make plays right now. I'm talking about veteran players, young players, and everybody in between. The ones that have stuck it out, that are bought in, that are continuing to fight and work together for 60 minutes, I sound like a cliche, the coach, a whole deal. Those kids are so happy for each other, no matter who it is. Walk-on tight end, walk-on defense, what doesn't matter. They celebrate every play together. It's a lot of joy to watch, a lot of fun to watch. he wanted to, Mac Jones could drink some wine. 24 of 32, 417 yards, 4 touchdowns against that Georgia defense. They outscored Georgia 21-0 in the second half. Freaking Alabama. Alabama's trailing at halftime. Georgia's running the ball. They're physical. Defense, against when you're playing a bunch of NFL players, it's hanging in there. They're probably the only team I'd give a chance to defend Alabama. And then that second half happens, and freaking Mac Jones, dude, I'm telling you, that dude is good. That's ridiculous.
This is the interesting thing to look out for, too, in the next couple of weeks. As you get into Game 4 and Game 5, do the defenses come to life a little bit and
Starting
answer?
to see a few signs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Little bit.
And it would be a staggered effect, right, because the SEC just recently got started.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what the Big Ten looks like if offenses are way ahead of defenses this weekend as they debut. It's a fascinating trend, and certainly if you're playing for potato chips, one you should be locked the hell in on right now.
Najee Harris, if you're one of those people that plays college fantasy football, well, hitch your wagon. 31 carries. Boy, Nick doesn't give a damn. 31 carries, $152.
So quit asking.
5 yards a carry. Just get you some of that 31 times. That's criminal. You got a stable of running backs. You're up by 2 scores. That's what that guy does.
Sark, let's give it to Harris.
Yeah. Okay, Coach.
Coach, he's bleeding from his eyes.
Give it to him again.
I said what I said.
He loves it. And for all the people that lauded the Leach hire yet again, thanks for the 14 points this weekend.
It's a good Jimbo cover, though. There you go.
It is a good Jimbo cover. Man, I was so pleased to see Arkansas win another game. That's so cool. Held Ole Miss to 21 points. Right after scoring 48 against Alabama. Arkansas is bought in, buddy.
They are.
And I've been on them. Damn it.
Yep.
I'm killing myself.
You wanted the straight up. Yeah, you wanted to pick them straight up.
I wanted to pick them straight up. I said it out loud.
You said it commercial break on Saturday's Tallahassee game day show.
I told you.
I don't know if I have the courage to do it.
I said to you, Arkansas is going to beat Ole Miss. I just said those words. Arkansas is going to beat Ole Miss. I should pick. I got enough time. I should run in there and make the pick. And I didn't do it. And next thing I know, it's 20-0 Arkansas. I'm like, damn it, man.
Dialogue from the diner outside of Fayetteville.
Yeah.
Arkansas going to beat Ole Miss.
I could have been one of them. I could have been a local.
More coffee, honey?
I would have walked in and been like, I will have more coffee. Let me tell you all local something. I'm not from around here. Never even been to Fayetteville, but I like what you got going on around here. You boys going to beat Ole Miss this weekend. It's going to happen.
You're damn right.
Yes, sir. Let's eat. Let's eat and drink some coffee, shall we? They would have been cranking that in the parking lot. they didn't take my suggestion. They add that during the mix. Somebody just going, woo-hoo.
I think Robin Thicke kind of did.
Well, he stole. Yeah, he stole and got busted.
But he heard that gap that you're talking about.
Yeah, he's like, it's there. It's in there. We can do this thing.
It'll make it my own, even though it's not.
No, not at all. I'm always inviting you guys to check out the deals at Killearn Country Club. They've got great deals right now where you can join, probably save more money right now, whether it's a tennis membership, a golf membership, a social membership, you want to hang out at the pool, whatever it might be. These are the best deals. You want to get in now. They're doing major renovation at Killearn Country Club in the coming year or two, and it's all good stuff. Of course, going to remain open, of course, and it looks great right now. But so many additions, new clubhouse, and they're going to eventually end up with a tiki bar over there, Tom, that I may or may not end up spending a lot of time at.
A tiki bar, you say?
They're doing crazy things over there. They are all in. They have brought it from the depths of closure to we're going forward. Dawn of a new day at Killearn Country Club. Should note that they've got a tournament coming up in February that you can get involved in terms of the tennis. And it's for a really good cause. I wanted you guys to, it's mixed doubles and regular, but it's February 12th through the 14th, and they're looking to obviously eradicate sex trafficking rings in Florida, specifically Florida. And so you can go to the website and you'll find more about it. You can also find more about the car show they're having in November, if that's your thing. I was at the Antique Car Museum this weekend, Tom. So that place, when I go there, I think, okay, the cars are cool. But when I'm upstairs, I could spend 6 hours looking at old clocks and phones and radios. It's crazy.
It's been a while since I've been there, probably a Brewfest a couple of years back or so.
Yes.
But when you get that VIP treatment, that's because it gives you the access to the Antique Museum
go
itself.
Up there and hang out for hours.
Yeah.
The Killearn Country Club car show is going to take place on November the 14th. It benefits Leon County High School's dance marathon. You can learn about that. They've got October golf tournaments going on, and of course the 19th hole is open, and their chefs are new and really, really good. Their food's good.
Batmobiles, were they still out there?
Still there.
All right.
They were all there. Everything. I had a chance to read more this time around. I read a lot more about certain origins and where this thing came from and why, and what was the genesis of the idea for the one Batman. It's the second Batman Returns car. Mm-hmm. They talked about how they came up with that design plan and why. It was fascinating.
Very similar to the first one. That's interesting.
It is very similar. Just subtle difference.
The Batman Forever one was a big switcherooski.
Big to do.
I remember McDonald's was giving away a Batmobile as part of that blockbuster summer release. They get the Happy Meals and all that stuff, then they give away a Batmobile, and everybody was like, whoa, I want to win this contest.
When I was a kid, man, first of all, I collected all of the Matchbox cars. Like, that was the big to-do. But if you got something outside of the Matchbox car, you always wanted the Batmobile. Any incarnation, like the original one. I like the original one still, just because I liked that show when I was a kid. Not the cartoon, the actual.
Adam West.
Yeah. But yeah, that Batmobile, which is there at the Antique Car Museum, I like that one. That's a replica, but it's it's pretty cool. Almost looks exactly like it. And then when I was a kid, I got all of them. Now, that preceded basically all the new Batmans. But I remember thinking, well, okay, you've earned your way into the Matchbox car.
Yeah.
I did crash-up derbies, and I had a track that I would set up on high on the kitchen counter, and then we'd see who could launch the furthest, and we'd measure them out, who's the fastest and best and furthest in terms of the ramp. And I always wanted the Batmobile to win. It never did. It was too light.
Too heavy. Oh,
see,
ours were heavy as kids.
Yeah, no.
We had the Hot Wheels cars, which were, they were all right, but the Batmobiles, they had some real weight to them.
Hot Wheels were good.
A Vokey wedge versus an imposter wedge.
I used to, you could play those things for hours and build the tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they snap on.
The snap-ons. It was fun. So I want announcers to start doing something, and it stood out to me both in our game, but also the Bucs game yesterday. And I don't know if it's the quarterback in Troy Aikman or what, but, you don't have to say that the guy that's playing below his norm or the one that's being shut down is playing poorly, as opposed to noting that a defense is dominating. Troy Aikman must have said 7 times yesterday that Aaron Rodgers is just off. You think, Troy, do you think he's just off, or perhaps the defense is doing something to put him, on edge? Things aren't going the way that he had hoped because of constant pressure, because of getting hit, because his receivers aren't running wide open. I don't know. Why don't you just note that the opposing defense is dominating the day?
Yeah, in the beginning it was he could do whatever he wanted because they were open over the middle on little crossers.
And that was accurate.
Against man. I think it was still accurate a little bit into the game, but once you get 2 drives later and 3 drives later and 4 drives later and he's on his ass routinely, that never happens.
No.
Aaron Rodgers is hardly ever on the ground, and the amount of times he was yesterday tells you that their timing was all out of whack. Thanks to scheme. I thought early in the game, I texted you as much, that this is a bad matchup for Todd because he doesn't like to drop 7 in coverage. And I don't know that you can continue to pressure Aaron Rodgers. And Bowles kept on pressuring Aaron Rodgers, and it worked.
Yeah, it did work, and we got a little bit more handsy on the edges. He got up on guys. But you have corners that can do that, and the more they play Dean, the better off we are. He's a wonderful player. He makes plays.
I guess. His emergence the last 6 quarters is something because he was the guy pre-snap. Quarterbacks always look at 35 and say, this is where I'm going to win, and he's won himself a couple of times the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he does make plays, man. I like that kid. You go back and you realize that he's a player that, not unlike a lot of the young guys in that secondary, you just see improvements from week to week. Like, they're getting better, and it goes back to week 12 of last year. They're just getting better and better and better the more you see them. So that's really more than anything. I know why you do it. I understand that the conversation has to center around 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers at quarterback, but this game was about neither one of those guys. It was all about the Bucs defense dominating the day, period. It was the Bucs defense is the whole story.
Yeah, the 14 points to start the game for the Bucs has nothing to do with Brady whatsoever.
No, none.
It's a direct pick 6, and it's an easy punch-in from the 2.
Yeah, and listen, Brady ended up being smart with the football as he is, as we
made
build
about
the
4
league.
or 5 excellent throws yesterday.
Man, there's a couple of throws. That drop in the bucket on the sideline, not the one to Gronkowski for the touchdown, which is a gorgeous throw. The sideline throw where he gets his feet down, that's an insane throw. That's a rainbow into a lunchbox. It's silly, and it's on the move. And, of course, he buys time. They're only rushing 3 down there inside the 10. What are they doing?
The Johnson touchdown catch.
What are you doing? Why would you rush 3? You can't. Tom Brady's going to stand there.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bucs didn't give up a sack in this game.
No sacks, no
penalties, no interception.
other than the washout on Ndamukong.
Which, by the way, I didn't assume that he had the presence of mind to do it. If he did, that's really cool. But if you're going to rough a guy, rough him and do it there when he's already committed intentional grounding, I mean, pick him up and body slam him at that point. He just pushed him to the ground, but get your money's worth, baby, because it's going to be offsetting.
And he had something to say.
Well, they both did. What's going on there?
I don't know.
If you're Aaron Rodgers, you do not want to do that.
Something about that helmet and the other helmet and Raymond James Stadium, defensive tackle, quarterback. Buddy, that harkened back to the old Central days. That did my heart good, not just the result, but to see those 2 uniforms, the uniforms the way they're meant to be in
clashing,
Tampa.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss the Central so much.
Yeah, and we just played the Bears, so you had that too.
Yeah, we have them this year as across the board.
The interesting thing about that little skirmish, if you will, is that I think Ndamukong Suh is probably the last guy I want to shake the beehive with, man, because he has a motor problem sometimes. He doesn't always care to be there. That's why he ends up going from team to team, because sometimes they look at the film and go, you're not trying real hard. But when you piss him off, he's still a completely dominant player. The second that there were words, they couldn't block him anymore.
Yeah.
It was like he decided, so it's going to be that kind of party? All right.
So, and often when you see really good defensive plays, people say scary and intimidating. I haven't been as truly intimidated in linebacker play, watching
Devin
linebacker
White and
play.
Levante David are scary.
Right now, the way they're so sudden, and people just go down like a sack of potatoes when they hit them, it reminds me of Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis.
Yeah.
It's been that long since I've seen it in the NFL, and we have it in Tampa. Holy crap.
Well, when we were at our best, we had it in Tampa, and now we have it again. And the Devin White draft choice, I mean, I liked it in the beginning, and I'm really liking it more and more every day. He shot out of a cannon. You can't be that big and run that fast. It's dumb. You see those plays where they're trying to stretch, and they can never get to the second level, and the second he reads it, that's your ass. It's coming now.
And they play off of each other, the two
yeah.
of them. It's just there was one hit yesterday with David where I was, oh, my God.
He was in there in 2 seconds.
Like, that guy's dead. How's he not dead?
I think the play where Devin White makes the tackle and the guy's trying to stiff arm his neck and he just holds him, wrenches him down. You're like, sir, you should have just let him tackle you around the waist. Because now he's going to try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who made one of those plays? It's not as violent, but it's just impressive and so strong. Marvin in the backfield late in the going when it's a pass to the perimeter or run.
Oh, his hand on the shoulder
and the guy's trying to get away.
And he's like,
"You're not getting away from
not
the ground."
Yeah.
He's prone, and he's just so damn strong.
Reminded me of Warren Sapp against Lawrence Phillips when Miami played Nebraska in the national championship. And Warren Sapp reaches – it's the strongest play I've ever seen on a big, angry man. Lawrence Phillips is running – and it wasn't like Lawrence wasn't, mean. Lawrence is running through, and he's got a head of steam, and Warren Sapp is being blocked, and he reaches back and grabs Lawrence Phillips by the shoulder pad, and you see Lawrence Phillips jerk back, and Sapp just left arm, bam! And I remember thinking – well, that's not normal. That's not normal. That's a superhuman right there, and it was one of the strongest guys to ever play. And that's you see it. You shake your head. It reminds you of some of the things we laugh about with Anquan Bolden's hand strength,
sure,
or any of those kinds of guys. You're right. Marvin did that
because he had to. We weren't there yet.
No,
we were closing in, but he held him and he still made the play. He probably didn't need the swarm, but. That's great to see.
No, listen.
A lot of good defensive play over the weekend. Even though North Carolina racked up a ton of points in the second half, that's good defense for a Saturday-Sunday combo as a Buck and Knoll.
Buddy, we can expect it every week on a Sunday from the Bucks. I don't know what to expect from the Knowles every Saturday, but what I now expect, and this is something, again, that I think I'll echo throughout the show today, as I have, is that, look, man, you got real effort for all four quarters. I know what the results were in the first half compared to the second half, and I understand the yardage and the points. But, man, the buy-in is completely there. They are completely bought in, and you even have some veteran players that hadn't been playing well now, completely bought in, playing better. They're spurned on by the younger players who are getting a lot more time now, and even when those young guys screw up, you'll live with it because they do it at 100 miles per hour. They're efforting on all of these plays. Eventually, you'd like to see consistent in terms of stops, more consistent stops occur. But for now, going back to that Miami game where people were really worried, I think the genesis of this is late in the fourth quarter where you saw them fight in that game. And then they completely fought against Notre Dame, and they certainly fought Saturday night against North Carolina.
And it wasn't like it's guys on the field are competing and the guys on the sidelines are just, doing whatever they want to do.
No,
they're engaged on the sideline watching the guys in the field.
They're pumped up. Yeah, that's good stuff. Jeff Cameron Show, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Night football for you tonight. Obviously, Cowboys, Arizona, the 8:15 kickoff. We've got that for you right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. If you're working, driving around, whatever you're doing, you'll want to stick right here because Front Row Knowles coming up next, which is good. First look, and they got something to celebrate this time around. How good does that feel? It's really kind of the theme of the week, right? Your food tastes better, you sleep better, everything you're doing this week, you're going to enjoy a little bit more, knowing that Florida State got a win in the back pocket, and it was one that was not expected, and it was one that, more importantly, as we've talked about and documented on this show all day today, revealed real buy-in, continued buy-in. Because you saw it against Notre Dame, and you saw some things in that game, and I harked on it afterwards. I talked about the team being well-coached, and as it is with most things, I'm going to turn out to be right again. And so, now it's there for even the greatest of doubters about this group. They are well coached. They've got a long way to go, and there's things they can do better, and they're not without flaws. Flaws. They're not without all those things. They're still figuring some things out with this personnel, and the kids are still figuring out what they're supposed to do. Maybe this was a little bit more of what to expect defensively. Not great in the second half, but I really do think, and we've talked about it some, that if Dante Lucas doesn't commit the dumbest of dumb personal fouls on the 2-yard line while you're down there on the opening drive of the second half, Florida State's going to go in and go up 38-7, and you can call it a day. 38-7, there's not enough possessions, not enough time, and at that point, I think you take their will. I think you take their heart. I think they were a fighter on the ropes that needed something good to happen. And that good turned out to be something that Florida State provided through stupidity. And the personal foul's called, and you're backed up, and the next thing you know, you miss a chip shot field goal because, of course, you do. And nothing comes easy when you're learning how to win. Nothing comes easy when you're trying to figure out how to turn the corner. But at the end of the day, you do need a couple of things to go right for you. But hard work, perseverance, buy-in, dedication pays off. Win. Big win. Program win that shows kids are fighting, kids are believing in these coaches, and I think you'll continue to see growth. Now, you have to stay healthy. You have to find a way to, again, patch this thing together as you move forward. But you have opportunities now that I talk about being in a good mood as we sign off and turn it over to the Front Row Knowles and then later on Monday Night Football. But you think about it, all of a sudden now you look at that Louisville game and you go, that's a winnable game. They could lose it just as easy, and that's going to be true of every game Florida State plays this year that remains on the schedule because of how far they still have to go. But now all of a sudden you look at Louisville and maybe you look at Pitt off the bye. You look at NC State. These are all teams now you say, okay, yeah. And what looked like something from a horror film, meaning a disastrous campaign, could turn into something of a middling campaign, but moreover, one that is more rewarding than your average 500 season could ever be, because it's an indication of a corner turning. I will say the Clemson game is not going to go well, no matter how much they buy in. They buy into the cows come home, and it's not going to matter at all. I think you see what Clemson is when Clemson decides to be all in as well. That's somewhat problematic. And so it is. We get Rays, Dodgers, and tomorrow I'll be able to do what I ordinarily do, which is a probables, 2 teams. Sorry, Braves fans, man. We've really enjoyed bringing it to you all year long. I'm sorry they choked it away there at the end and blew a 3-1 lead. But it was a good campaign and not one that we expected. And this, the final segment, is brought to you by Whidden Glass. Whidden Glass, a family-owned and operated business serving Tallahassee and the Big Bend area since 1945. They're Tallahassee's first family in glass replacement. Highly respected for their quality of installation, both residential and commercial. Whidden Glass, 222-5781. That's 222-5781. Vegas has the Dodgers favored. These 2 teams had the best 2 records in all of baseball all season long. The Rays the best in the American League, the Dodgers the best in the National League, and the Dodgers with the best overall ranking. Yes, you would give the Dodgers a slight edge, but who's going to count out the Rays at this point with the way they pick it up on defense, the way they pitch out of that bullpen, timely hitting, all that good stuff? Tomorrow night, 8:09 first pitch between the Rays and the Dodgers. All right, that'll do it again. Front Row Knowles up next first, their first look, and then later on Monday Night Football. We'll talk with you tomorrow. Be well. Have a great night. Peace.
Mothers love me.